it's by this, it's by this.
Hey, how are you guys? Did you survive the overnight?
Oh, it was awesome. She went to
Good job.
she went to oh, it was awesome. I heard that. They said it's amazing. For sure. They're going in a couple weeks.
I'd heard Steve.
I told him I was like, we've been like, I've been telling it. Like my fifth grade team, we were so nice. We started fourth year company. And so I said,
We used to go to Carlisle. Worst cabins.
It's the same, Carlisle and.
Well, but do they at least have a front room for the?
yeah, they do. And they have bathrooms.
Well, yeah, you don't go across the road, yeah, back.
See, in Carlisle, and I don't know if it was on the ladies' side, but the guys' side. I mean, you know, I slept with a kid above me on the bunk bed. And it was like, no, look, you can't snore, you can't talk in your sleep.
Well, there wasn't a where we were at, so I was in the, but they're basically.
But their bathrooms in the cabin. So,
That was a benefit. I wasn't up in the middle.
and it was really nice weather.
Yeah, perfect.
First night I went as a principal, because I went every year when I was principal. The first year I went up after the school day, and I didn't take anything with me. All I had was my coat. I didn't have a sleeping bag, I didn't have a pillow, and it was the most miserable night I've ever spent. So then I realized for $50 more a night, you can turn the heat on in the cabins. So the next year we did that. It was a lot better. We did.
No, it was air conditioned.
And it wasn't, it was just on that,
They had a really good time.
I'm rich.
Amanda.
Is she still in there?
No, we don't. You can still.
So is the state budget gonna do a supplement, Randy? State budget gonna do it first? This year. Yeah, what they did help. Good. Yeah, that's the FSC, the money. Yeah, 2%. Right. Okay, flipping to all right.
Yes, of course. What's your issue?
It's got a dialogue box.
Miss Carter, you ready for
singing that song like Kindergarten and Kindergarten.
For the performance. Does she have a speaking part in the performance?
She's the cow.
Oh, yeah.
While we're waiting, before we start, we do have a sign-in sheet if you'd like to make a public comment. Over there on the table, to your right of this table, if you'd like to sign in, you can do that now and identify the item you'd like to talk about. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt your chatter. Go ahead, go back to chatter. Go on, chatter.
I can pass them out while you talk. Okay. Yeah, I'm the one that just.
This is for that number.
Does anyone want to look at it? No, no, it's hard.
This is what we're talking about in the meeting.
I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Scott County Board of Education. Thank you all for being here on this unseasonably cool April 15th. We're glad we didn't have any more accumulated snow than we did this morning. At this time, I'd like to ask Jennifer Holbert to read our vision statement.
We exist to ensure the best education for every student in Scott County schools and to create a collaborative culture to ensure student learning.
Thank you. Our item 4 is to approve the agenda. Do I have the motion?
Move.
And second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Our next item is our financial statement. Mr. Cutright.
Board's been provided the summary of cash activity for the month of February 2014, and that's on the screen each end of the room also. We had a beginning cash and investment balance of $22,536,7772. Receipts, expenditures, receivable, payables, transfers. Ending balance of $19,657,142.94. Of that, $16,313,774.59 was invested. $13,400,000 of that at Kentucky Bank. $2,913,774.59 at BB&T. Also had $13,534.51 with bond paying agents, leaving a cash balance of $3,329,833.84. Board's also been provided a monthly financial report for February, includes the balance sheet for each fund, along with the summary receipts and expenditures.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Cutright? Thank you very much. Item 6 is approval of current bills. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 7 is our spotlight. Superintendent Putty.
You know, in Scott County, we're very, very fortunate to have such an outstanding pool of certified teachers who are by all means what I would consider exceptional teachers. And for the last 6 years, we have been able to, or we haven't, we've been able to submit names to the Campbellsville University for consideration for their Excellence in Teaching Awards. And for the last 6 years, we've had both an elementary, a middle school, and a high school teacher who has received this award. So tonight we're here and I want to introduce to you 3 of our outstanding teachers who are this year's recipient of the Campbellsville University Excellence in Teaching Award. And so Jennifer Jackson from Southern Elementary. Jennifer, congratulations.
Smile.
Oh, the light is in our way.
Smile.
Okay. So, you want to say anything? No. You teach every day. You don't want to say anything. I don't. No, but listen, we are so proud of you and for you to represent Scott County in this award, and we want to say it couldn't go to a better elementary, and we appreciate it. Thank you. And from our Scott County 9th grade school, Amanda Cantrell. Congratulations, Amanda. We're proud of you. Smile. I'm sorry, didn't I should? I think I did again. Okay. So, you want to say anything? No? Well, we're very proud of you. Thank you. And from Scott County Middle School, it's my honor to present Amanda Mullins. How are you, Amanda? Are you okay? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Did we get it? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. We appreciate it.
Okay, now we're going to have our dialogue with Northern Elementary. So if they would come up and have a seat at the table.
At the round table.
At the round table.
At the front table.
Round table.
Chairs.
Yeah.
You know, let me explain to people in the audience what we do is that the dialogue is just more or less a conversation that the school has with the board in which they talk about their areas of strength. They talk about the areas in which they do the self-reflection and how they want to improve and the strategies they put in place. And so each one of our schools has the opportunity to have a board dialogue.
Do you, we can pull another chair.
Oh, you're so
Randy,
cute.
would you help her get a chair?
Maybe I'll scoot up.
Becky might kick you over the table.
I'll try one of those too.
Everybody introduce themselves.
We can do that. So
I'm Jenny Conyers. I'm a parent rep from our site base. I'm Carrie Riggs. I teach 5th grade at Northern, and I'm a teacher representative.
Julie Walker, I teach special ed at Northern Elementary.
Brittany Thomas. I teach 1st and 2nd grade.
Judy Hunter, principal.
Green Carter.
I'm a parent to Ms. Conyers has graciously prepared a little
I
something.
said I would kick it off and everything. So I've been associated with Northern for 9 years. I have a daughter that's in 10th grade and a 5th grader. So I know these people really well. And I want to say that I'm proud to be associated with Northern and the success that they've had. I think our success begins with our leadership of Mrs. Hunter. She understands the needs of the school. She's actively involved in all aspects of the school. And I think she's our compass that keeps us pointed towards student achievement. She keeps us, we end every one of our site days with what did we do to achieve student achievement. and everything, so that keeps it front and foremost on our minds as we go about our daily routine and everything. But she has ridden the bus routes. She knows where our children live. She knows our children by name. She reviews every report card. She observes in the classroom. She observes and reviews lesson plans. And she's not afraid to step on toes if it comes for a parent or a teacher. If she thinks that student achievement is being compromised, she cares, she listens, and she demands excellence. I think the second reason for our success at Northern has to do with our staff. They're warm and responsive. They use research and data, collaboration, and hard work to achieve our goals. They work together. The classroom teachers, the RTI teams, the special teachers, the special ed teachers, they all work with teamwork. And I think with very little resources, they just come together to make it happen. And again, their focus is on student achievement. And they have a way of making learning fun, I think. Also, our school is welcomes and communicates well with parents. Like I say, I've been associated with the school for 9 years, and I consider it a privilege to be a part of it. Another component of our success, I think, has to do with our classroom size. And I'm not talking about the pupil-teacher ratio, not the human resources part. That's part of, you can go on our website and see each school's, what that is. I'm talking about actual classroom size, the number of the children, students, with this classroom teacher. For the last 6 years, I've been a part of Site-Base, and our mission has been, our goal has been to keep classrooms to a size of 25 or less. And research and our experience shows us that small classroom provides the results that we need for student achievement. Especially when our students have half-day kindergarten. I think it is essential because I feel like that we're playing catch up those first 2 years, first grade and second grade, after half-day kindergarten. I think I could go on and on about the benefits of a smaller classroom, but that comes to a cost. I mean, we have to make some really hard decisions about that. We have a half-time librarian. We have a half-time, counselor, guidance counselor. We don't have a certified technology person. We have no art teacher. So it comes at a cost. It's a hard decision when you're looking at that, what's best for our school. But that, I think, aside from our leader and the teachers who do a great job, that's our number one. And I think every penny that we manage seems to go towards staff. What can we do to keep that 25 student classroom size?
And is that something that's been consistent over a long time? I don't know how long that's been your...
This is my 8th year, and it's been very consistent over those 8 years. So
Do you know, was that a practice before you were principal?
I'm not quite sure. I really am not.
Okay.
I can't even sometimes you do.
Right.
But it has been a strong focus. It's been a focus so that when we do make decisions, it's always about what can we do for the children and, you know, again, to promote their achievement.
So you
and
can,
growth.
so do teachers find ways to compensate for not having the full-time librarian and art person? And
Yes.
It's difficult because it changes their rotation
Right.
and their planning periods are affected by that. Ms. Thomas said she has a 1-2 split. We've done that because we don't think it's fair to have a classroom of 32 second graders. So,
Our primary classes, we have 5 primary classes this year, and our teachers have just done an outstanding job. I mean, we started off the school year with more second graders than we expected and less first graders than we expected, and within the second week of school, we were already communicating to parents, this is our plan. We turned them all over into the 1-2 primary classrooms. We had meetings with parents. We invited parents to the school. We did a presentation with the parents. Parents were hesitant at first. I felt pretty good because I want to say from, let's see, About 130 maybe parents or students, I should say, 130 students. There were only 17 parents that I heard from that had concerns or complaints, and we just took each one of them and talked it out, and it worked out well. And now the parents are commending the teachers for doing such an excellent job of teaching those 1-2 splits. Plus, we've seen great gains in our MAP scores, like our winter MAP scores from our, from fall to winter. We would expect to see our first graders going up points because they went from a half-day kindergarten to a full day, school day. So you would expect to see gains. Well, on average, all of our first graders went up about 10 points in math, in both reading and math. But what was interesting is our second graders did the same. They also went up about 10 points each in both subject areas. So the teachers have done a phenomenal job. And our teachers have learned to cope with the 3-day rotation, where one day they have PE, one day they have music. So they have those blocks of times free 2 days. The third day is a rotation into the computer lab, and the teachers go there. And they're the ones who instruct with the assistance of our STC. And then every other week, our media specialist, our librarian is there.
Somebody's designated to keep up the schedule. What day it is.
And so every other week, they have an extra hour of planning because of the media specialist, and their kids go to the library.
Well, kind of jump in on the faculty. This is my 5th year at Northern. I love Northern. What I love most about Northern is the faculty that we have. In our administration, in our leadership within our building. Judy does an excellent job seeking out opportunities for teachers. Opportunities that I've been a part of. I've gone to the Kentucky Reading Association conference. I've gone to the Kentucky Center for Mathematics conference for the past 2 years. Myself, along with another intermediate teacher, are part of the Marty Plus grant that is through the Kentucky Center for Mathematics. And they're wonderful opportunities, and that's just one teacher in the building. And I think she provides and searches herself for opportunities for teachers to expand their knowledge to help improve student achievement. Something else to say about faculty is that we work very well together. And as we mentioned, our schedule is not a typical schedule, but we collaborate very well together. Ms. Walker is in my classroom every day to collab for math, and we talk always in the hallway about the students that we share, as well as our math recovery teacher, math interventionist that's in the building, and our assistant interventionist. I'm talking constantly with her, and I think that there are lots of resources in our building. Maybe not like financial resources, like actual hands-on materials, but we have resources of wonderful educators that we can go to ask for help and ask for assistance. And I think that, I know that lots of teachers use those, our math recovery teacher and our reading recovery teacher as those resources, our librarian, our PE teacher, our music teacher, especially our special ed team. And that, that is a goal of Scott County Schools, to have a collaborative culture, and Northern is a wonderful example of that.
I'll pick up on, I think what we do really well is we work really well with our RTI team. I know myself, I'm constantly talking to Ms. Chandler and Ms. Sawyer and Ms. Winkle and Ms. Bailey, and just kind of what can I do? How can I make my schedule work? How can I do the best for my students and what we need to do? Especially with getting thrown into the 1-2 split 9 days after school's already started. My brain was boggled, and I thought, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to begin. I need help, and we're not afraid to ask for help. And it's given to us. So I think that the RTI aspect of our school is awesome.
And how long have you had the RTI in that form?
We're in that form.
Actually, brought it with me
Oh, you did?
to Northern, but we called it CARE.
Okay.
And any child that had any, and I did this even when I was in Virginia and then in Fayette County. Any of our children who had any concerns academically or behaviorally, emotionally, we would meet as a team and see what we could do. And so when I started at Northern, it was just natural to bring that along. And we have student achievement meetings 3 times a year with the whole teams, making sure that we're doing what's right for our children. But when it went into formal RTI, it was just natural to just go right into RTI.
Was that when I long-term sub 6 years ago? I was brought into it by the long-term sub, and it's a lot of work, a lot of extra planning, but you see the gains those kids make. And we're not only, I mean, yeah, we talk about, you know, the kids that need kind of that extra push because they're not quite on level, but we have extra groups for those above level kids, and they're pulled out as well, I mean, to push them even farther. So, I mean, I think we do a really good job of that.
Like I said, I teach special ed. This is my 8th year teaching special ed at Northern. I think we have done, there was a big push about 3 or 4 years ago to collaborate, with the regular ed teacher, get their lesson plans and incorporate it into our lesson plans. So not so much the SRA, which is a direct instruction that special ed teachers sometimes use, but incorporating those skills, especially in reading and math, that the regular ed teacher is teaching also. So we're not just the remedial, the SRA lessons, we're teaching, you know, them how to read first, in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. Then in 4th and 5th grade, we focus on those skills and reading, compare and contrast, and, you know, inferencing and things like that, and making sure that those kids are getting that. And I think that we close the gap with our special ed kids quite a bit.
Do you know if your special ed numbers compare with other elementary schools about the same, or?
We're actually a higher percentage
Is that right?
when it comes to special ed.
Okay.
But again, it's awesome teachers in both regular ed and special ed and RTI. And then our awesome parents. Ms. Carter, you want?
Well, my daughter is in kindergarten, so I'm new to the school system, and I didn't grow up here. But one thing I'm very impressed is with the personnel and teachers, it's just everybody at school. My daughter knows all the teachers, and all of them, you know her. So I was very impressed. It's the kind of, personal contacts she has with, you know, the personnel there.
Good, excellent. Board, do you have any questions or comments for?
I'll just make one comment on where you're located. Of course, you're in the heart of the bluegrass, in the very best part of the county.
Even when it does snow.
You're very diligent about security, and I appreciate that. You don't walk in your door without
Well,
somebody
and
on there.
but one day when I was out there, right after school started, there was when I went, there was what I thought was a suspicious looking person sitting in a vehicle in the parking lot, and I went in and said something, and you know, she immediately got on the phone and called somebody, or the radio, and called somebody and said, hey, can you go out and check this out and, you know, see what's going on, that kind of thing. Because you are so far out that's, and it turned out to be some parent who normally done that, so. I was being overly, but, you know,
That's good.
I hadn't been there, and he was sitting there for what I perceived to be too long, because the children were already in the building already, so, yeah.
Do you think next year you'll have the 1-2 split as well?
Yes.
Huh.
And what's the
And they're
numbers?
combined, right? So you have 1st and 2nd graders in the same room?
Yep.
What are the numbers there at kindergarten?
Right now, we all have about 26, all 5 of us.
Kindergarten?
Oh, kindergarten, I don't.
In kindergarten, we have, right now currently, because we had a new one enrolled today, so our current kindergarten is around 65.
65.
Yes. And so far, for next school year, which is very high for us, we have 54 kindergartners already enrolled for next school year. And normally at the end of March, we only have about 20.
Wow.
Judy, what is your current enrollment? What is your capacity?
We have 300 and 96 students, because we just got a new student yesterday and one today. And then we also have 27 in our preschool. And our capacity, I wanna say, is 450.
You're right, you're right in your best.
What's your percentage of free and reduced lunch?
40.
I'm gonna say it's 46.
So we always ask at the end of these conversations, the board could give you one thing, what would it be? I've been surprised by the answers, you know, it's not always been more staff, you know, it's been varied, but.
Jacuzzi,
No.
The preschool center wanted I forget what that room's called, but they asked for yeah.
like a reduced input room.
Yeah.
They want a bill for their 2 adopted deer they have. They are so cute.
I would have to say, and you all can correct me, I would have to say it would be more staff.
Okay.
I would agree, and I think that we're at the, we talked about how we have very
We're cut to
few-
the bone.
We're at the bare, you know?
And we do use as much as, Mr. Cover, I can tell you, I try and use him, and Mr. Thompson, every penny we bring and talk about at site base, and we always put it back, so that money can be used for teaching and having a direct impact on our students. And we do, I mean, administrative wise,
Do you have
I'm
student,
it,
dean of students,
no,
assistant principal?
no. And our counselor is .4. We have a half-time bookkeeper, full-time secretary. We've just got, you know,
Right.
a great team that,
And when you think about, I mean, somebody mentioned half-day kindergarten, and when you think about the impact if it was to go to a full-day kindergarten, what kind of impact would that have on?
it would,
Articulate that, say, it, articulate that.
I was getting ready to ask the same
Yes, we
question,
want-
because
I think-
a lot of
I
the
think from
schools ask for all-day kindergarten.
Well, I think
I'm
from a
curious.
first grade teacher standpoint, you know, I have these babies that come in from kindergarten, and some of them are here and some of them are here, you know, after kindergarten, they still don't know all their letters. And you think about, compared to all the other counties and how they are full day, and my job, my responsibility is to take these babies and catch them up almost a year and a half. So it's a lot of stress and pressure. I mean, we do it. We make it work, and I know we do it because we work together so well, and we plan so well, and we get, you know, we pull resources that we know are gonna work well with them. We take what works well from year to year, and we tweak it a little, but we use it. And full-day kindergarten would be, I mean, it would be amazing.
And you know, she's in primary and I teach 5th grade, and you know, so I see the other end of the spectrum. And you would say, well, how does a 5th grade teacher feel the impact of half-day kindergarten? And I do. And I think about what our 5th graders, when they leave to go to 6th grade and go to Scott Middle, how far they have come, and how much further we could get them if they had full-day kindergarten. That's my opinion and my view, is, you know, how much more instruction and how much more knowledge they could have.
I could go so much deeper. I go pretty deep now, but I mean, I did a moon, I could.
and we would
And I'll
love,
be honest
we
with
would
you.
love to pilot it.
We want it,
As a mom of
Trying
a
to figure out
4-year-old,
how to
I
get it.
definitely want it.
but I will tell you one thing that I told Eastern and told Stanford. You all are one of the 3 schools that I consider to be the little country schools that we have in our district. And they have a very special place in that community. Obviously, we replaced Sadie'sville, which back when that happened many years ago, it was a very contentious thing when they closed Sadie'sville Elementary and moved it out on top of that hill. But you all do some really, really special things, and I think, I never hear anything bad, ever. And I appreciate what you do, the time you spend, and yes, it's tough. You're out there, you don't have you know, it's still what I call relatively new school, but it's now, what, 20 years old? At least 30. And I know there's a lot of things that you all don't have that maybe some of the other schools have, but you know, please ask. I don't know what we can do. We're looking for that rich uncle or.
And I also want to commend you all. I know it's a team effort to do the energy
Yes.
saving, and you all have done remarkably well. I mean, the
We would take that
turnaround.
money and buy a statue.
Well,
Just saying.
I think you want to at some point be able to cash that in, but that, I really appreciate that. That's been very nice. And I know you've got the students involved, and so it's been a whole school.
And I think that's really
Enterprise.
credited to Elizabeth Cook, one of our fourth grade teachers.
Driving force.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
I think one of the things that I will say about Northern is you walk in to Northern and immediately you sense that sense of family there, that they very much care about the kids. It's very obvious, and you can tell that within a few moments. They know each child by heart, and that they take name and claim to a different level, and they're very responsive to the needs of all of their students. And they are ones that I will say that accept the kids where they are, and they don't put limitations on them, either consciously or unconsciously. They very much see each child, and this is my challenge, and I'm going to take them to the highest level we can take them. So I really feel like the one thing I can know, each school has their own culture. Their culture, when you walk in, you can immediately tell they really care about the kids.
Matt had something to say.
I can't let them leave without, because they didn't bring this up, and I refuse to let them leave without bringing this up. But they were a distinguished school last year.
Right.
They were one of the very few schools across the state that had a distinguished and progressing score their second year, which means not only did they remain in the distinguished category, but they got better. They're at the 98th percentile of all schools.
And you're gonna keep moving up.
Phenomenal. I can tell you that there isn't a conversation that goes on in that school that isn't focused around student learning. And that is just a true testament to Judy's instructional leadership and the great staff and families that they have at Northern. So, you know, what you heard tonight was very much the truth.
Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Or
Don't
come back
feel
to any
obligated.
board meeting.
Well, and come and visit Northern.
Yes, yes. I love the little school on the big hill.
We will,
I
we
bet
will
this
have
morning
Miss,
it was
we will have Miss
beautiful view up there.
Kentucky
That's
at
snow.
Northern on Friday to do a testing celebration and get them geared up for May testing.
Excellent. Thank you. Jen, could you have the list to see if anybody has signed up? Congratulations.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We have, two people signed up for public comment, and I'm going to go ahead and begin with Brad Penn. He had contacted the school, I think, a couple days ago, and wanted to speak about annexation and open enrollment.
You're welcome to start with the other one if you wish.
No,
They
go
signed
ahead.
up first.
Yeah, go ahead. You're first on, so, and we'll start the clock, and then we'll see how it goes. So,
I have a clock.
yeah, we got 3 minutes. So.
3 minutes. You know that's not going to be enough. I come wearing two hats tonight. One as a council member, one as a concerned father. My council hat, I will start with that one. And let me be clear in that I do not represent the entire council. I represent Brad Penn as a member of council. I will slow down and repeat that again so the print media can get that. I do not represent the entire council. I represent Brad Penn. For years I've sat and watched the council pass annexations and zone changes just as fast as they could come in. The 3 months prior to me taking office in my first term, we passed probably the largest conglomerate of annexations and zone changes that the council's ever seen.
And you're talking about annexing into the city limits,
Yes,
correct?
yes, sir. And the reason I talk about annexation is because typically with annexation comes in the high-density zone changes. You go from a 5-acre tract to 5 houses per acre. And I'm talking with gum in my mouth, and Ms. Henderson from 7th grade math would just chastise me with that. But the one common denominator that I've found throughout the years that I've watched our city government go through this is that the body that suffers the greatest burden from those zone changes and from that annexation is the school board. Yet the school board is never given an opportunity or a seat at the table to express the impact of which comes with that annexation and those zone changes on the school system. So I come to you tonight, I guess with an olive branch, asking if there's any opportunity for us to kind of bridge that gap, and not necessarily to give the board a seat at the table, because from a legislative standpoint that's impossible. However, I think there is an appropriateness that we come to the school board for input. That can be as simple as perhaps a board statement, a position statement. It can be as entailed and involved as a series of workshops, or perhaps inventing a mechanism by which we allow the board to come before council, because to my knowledge that's never happened, to give their opinions. We looked at a zone change a few weeks ago. That was 200 acres, it was 180 some houses, or 200 and some houses, and my comment in the council was, have we heard from the school system? It's very important that we get their input before we make those decisions. We hadn't, and I don't fault this body, because I don't believe that it's ever been brought to you guys and said, hey, we continually hear about an overcrowding issue, but we're not giving the body that has to deal with that ample time to address the council. So I guess I come to you tonight kind of with my arms open, asking if we have any opportunity for dialogue, any opportunity for input from the board before we make those decisions, because that's a huge decision. We go from a farm with 200 acres to a mixed-use development that may have 4 houses per acre.
That one was 232 houses, and that one.
232 houses for that particular development. That's huge. That's huge. So I guess my question or my statement to this body is, are you interested in having a seat at the table? What mechanism would you prefer that we use? Is it in the form of a workshop? Is it in the form of a procedure that we can implement to make sure that the board with the greatest impact on our decisions is heard from? Has that been done in the past? I've only been on council 3.5 years, but I've watched it for 5 or 6. So, Ms. Putty, that would be a question to you. I mean, is that something that you guys would be interested in?
Let me interject there.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I have asked for that since the day I walked in, as to why do we not know the developments are happening until after it's already been passed? And that we obviously are the ones who have the greatest impact.
Absolutely.
And so what you're saying, Brad, is something that we have been requesting.
Okay.
And I think, first of all, it comes back to communication. If we just
Sure.
are aware that it's coming before, the council, before it comes to you, in a timely manner, that we can talk about, okay, what school would that impact? How much of an impact, how much development would that be? Well, we could very easily come back with statements to submit to the council. Here's our voice for your consideration, and we do realize it would only be for their consideration.
Absolutely, yeah, because from a legislative standpoint, what we're doing is proper.
Right.
That doesn't make it right.
Right.
That
Fred,
doesn't make it right. Yes, sir.
I'd like to respond, just me personally, not representing the board by any means.
You too.
But, yes, 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, this was very obvious to me because I've lived here all my life. I've seen the changes that have occurred. I'm like you, I'm born here, lived here all my life. And I went to the city council and approached them and talked to them about it. I went to county commissioners. I went to planning and zoning. That was back when Kelly was still in charge of it. And the consensus at that time was that we were somehow within the schools being involved in that process. But I'm gonna sit here and tell you, I never saw it.
Right.
And like I have stated through the years, and not just about building a second high school, but I have been concerned from day one about the growth, the impact that has occurred in Scott County. Scott County, since the advent of Toyota, has never really been able to catch up. When it came, what, in '86, we didn't have the infrastructure in place to handle the growth it brought, let alone what is now occurring through natural progression as a bedroom community of Fayette County. And trust me, we are a bedroom community of Lexington now. And I would like to see this board be far more active. We can't establish policy. I don't think we can say anything that would change policy other than the facts. That if you build, and we've had this discussion with this board, that if you build this subdivision, because honestly, right over here, I had a part to do with it, not, I'm patting myself on the back, but I knew there was a subdivision in play to go on that property, and I went to the previous superintendent, and we were able, with the help of the county government, to purchase that farm to keep it from being developed. But there was development on the kitchen table there for hundreds of homes.
Sure.
And we were able to step in because we knew we had a need for one school, if not multiple schools. And hopefully down the road, there will be 2 schools there.
Sure.
Elkhorn Crossing and a new high school. But I do think that we are the one government body, and you and I have discussed this, we are the one government body that, regardless of the policies established by the city, the county, even the state, we are impacted here, and we have very little voice. We are always forced to be reactive rather than proactive. That's the reason why when I went to the city 7 or 8 years ago, what I asked at that time was impact fees. The legality of it, can we do it? Because I can fill this room up with studies that show that the growth coming into Scott County, that the taxes those people pay, and I'm sure they feel they're way overtaxed, but the truth of the matter is the taxes they pay when they move here on a 5-acre tract don't pay for the services they receive. And that's a given. Everyone knows that. So I appreciate very much you coming in front of us, because this is something I have felt for a long time.
Would I guess I don't want to leave here without an action item.
Well, and we're hearing comments, but we're not necessarily gonna resolve an action item at this time, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I understand.
No, I'm just curious as to where you're coming from, and I can take that back to the council and potentially lobby for some type of.
And one of the things I think that I want to say is that we're not saying pointing fingers to the council or to, the physical court or anybody else, planning and zoning. I think we're all in it together. And when I said more communication, it's just sometimes just increase the awareness.
Sure.
And that when there is development that is occurring or zoning changes and things are being annexed, if we are just aware of that early enough so that we can then try to be more proactive and try to instead of, okay, here we go again and we had no knowledge. We all have to be partners in this.
Absolutely.
And so I don't want the perception to be that I'm saying council is at blame and I'm not communicating, or physical courts. That's not what I'm saying at all.
No, not at all.
I think we have a great relationship with both of those governmental agencies, and I'm very appreciative to both of those. I do think that we could all do a better job of just sitting down and talking about the growth and how do we as an entire community respond to the increased growth. And we're going to continue to grow. So I think it's one of those where it could very easily become the school system, the council, planning and zoning, all having some conversations in what is our plan? How do you plan for that? How do you plan for the continued growth? What are, not just the school system, but look at the infrastructure we're gonna have in our community. Water, sewage, so forth. So, I mean, it's an impact, and we are a growing district. We are the fastest growing district. And I think if we can all just sit down and have some of those open communications.
And the truism of it is, Brad, is that we are in fact the fastest growing county in the state of Kentucky in a down economy.
Sure.
This is our home. This is why we're here. Everyone in this room, even the vendors that are here, have a stake in the game. And this is home. It's been a home for me, my life, 58 years. My family's been here for hundreds of years, just like I know the kids have been here since the beginning of time. But the truth of the matter is that we all have culpability in it. We all need to sit down because it is important. I've said this 1,000 times, people are tired of listening. You can go right out this driveway, make a left-hand turn, and go to the Franklin County line. The amount of infrastructure that's sitting there waiting for homes, begging for people to build, is staggering just from here to the Franklin County line. That's just this corridor. Go out 25, it's waiting there. You go out 62 to Cynthiana, oh my God, I can't even get to my farm. I used to take 10 minutes, and now it takes an hour just about to deal with the traffic. Go 25 south, go 460 east, it's all here. And we're growing as a community. And I've said this repeatedly, that if we don't do something soon, the things that are bringing people here that they find attractive are ultimately going to kill it, because we can't continue to substantiate the quality of life that we have. And the schools are just one of those things. Our creek,
100%.
where we get our water, things of that nature. You know, really, right now, we're at a crossroads in this community.
May I suggest a workshop?
I have a
Including,
suggestion. Ms. Putty, with the seated of the new LPC, could we send out from your office, we need invitations to the magistrates and to city council. We already have a planning and zoning individual at the LPC. Have them just come and sit as we, come and visit and watch and see what's happening as we plan the facilities needs for this district. I think that would be a good idea to just say, hey, we're having this meeting, please come and watch what we're trying to accomplish here. Because until they see what we're struggling with, and we know what you're struggling with, I mean, I watched that meeting that he is not the only one that said our schools. We had 3 other council members that just completely said, we need a voice from the school system at this point. So they're all wondering, they're all wondering what they can do to help. And I would like to go ahead from this office, from your office, to extend that to the mayor and the judge and all the magistrates and the city council if we could.
And as you heard the principal of Northern say, our smallest school, our most rural school, is at capacity.
Sure.
Where are we gonna put these kids?
Let me ask, back to what I thought was the heart of your request, is that we find some way for the school board to be involved in the process, maybe with planning and zoning, certainly between planning and zoning, and you guys voting on it. So that if possibly there was a notification to us that there's this piece coming, and then a representative from this body could say, okay, great, and then that person would be responsible for bringing it to this body to say, guys, look, this is coming, how does it impact us? And then this body could craft something to take back to go to you, to your body, before it's voted on. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Because that's kind of what I was getting from what you asked.
I think that's perfect.
Okay.
I think it can be addressed in many different ways, to be honest with you.
And I think Jennifer's suggestion is great too, but
Oh, I do too.
that's right now, what I was thinking is if there was something where we could, and Roger's right, we're not voting on anything tonight,
No.
but I'm just trying to clarify my mind. Is that the kind of thing you're looking for? Is that kind of, let's establish something so we can move from right now till 10 years from now, we still have this process in place where we're working together to make sure that at least we know
Absolutely.
what's coming, and before you vote on it, you understand, oh my
Absolutely.
goodness, do you understand that this is how it's gonna be?
I'm looking for the most proactive approach that this body is willing to take.
Okay.
And that's, I'm sorry.
And I think on the council side, I mean, I think they're the ones making the decision.
Sure.
So really, I mean, they're the ones that have the action demand. I mean, they have the obligation to do the finding, the fact finding. So if they wanted to ask us, I mean, I think actually this ought to come from the council to the board rather than the board saying, we want to participate in your decision making. I think it'd be better if the council said, we want you all to be involved
That's what he just said.
in our decision making.
That's what
Right?
he just said.
That's what I'm saying right
Okay,
now.
all right. But I mean,
We said in
but
this
rather-
last meeting, and
Yeah.
we discussed for probably
90 minutes.
Probably, yeah,
Yeah.
probably 90 minutes, this particular zone change.
Okay.
And the crux of
95
that,
minutes.
95 minutes and 42 seconds, according to Ms. Holder. The crux of the discussion was around the school system. That's just the bottom line. And I apologize that we haven't lined all 8 council members up in here.
Yeah, well, and I think a decision by the council, if that would come to a vote or a motion from the council to formally engage the school board at those issues, that's what I'm suggesting.
And I have no problem presenting that. I really, but we do have to figure out, we do have to decide how that's going to happen. Because there is the legalities behind it, and that it is our decision. But I'm gonna find it hard to find any one of the 8 of us who's gonna say, no, we don't wanna hear from the school board.
Yeah, we don't limit the kids, we just educate them.
Exactly, and I'm not asking you to limit.
Right.
But I do think it's important, it's imperative that you guys be able to communicate with us the severity of what's going on and the reactions to what we do in terms of the annexations and the zone change. We approved, I don't know, 3 months before I took office, the highest density zone change in the history of Scott County. That's gonna be huge for this board, and you all know that. But that took place without any input from Campo, without any input from the Board of Education whatsoever. So.
Thank you, and
Bob had a very good comment that I think, you wanna say it or you?
Having in a prior life served as city attorney a couple times, so
I'm sorry.
familiar with certainly what you have to go through. Anytime the matter would come up, the school system could be asked to provide an impact statement
Absolutely.
on that. You got all kinds of players, obviously, from principals, teachers, SBDM members, facilities, and could write an impact statement that it's not even necessarily a warm body at a meeting, which nobody has enough time to go everywhere. But any state agency on regulations have to give an opportunity for an impact statement from a potential player in that. So, I mean, that may be an oversimplification of what I hear you saying.
I think that's perfect.
It's almost an email opportunity that
Absolutely.
can serve the needs of this board, and you as a consul wishing to be the recipient of that, that's would seem to be that proverbial win-win.
I think it's perfect.
All right.
I think it's perfect.
Thank you very much. We're gonna have to move on because we've
Okay.
got other comments, we got more to do.
He had one other thing.
I've got mine.
Uh,
I have another issue that I wanted to discuss that's completely council unrelated.
Okay, if you can do
Let me say that
it
again.
concisely,
It
please.
is
I understand.
completely unrelated to council and in no way should be construed as such. I am the father of a potentially open enrolled student for second grade next year in the Scott County school system. I showed up on the date requested. I was about the 8th person through the door, filled out the forms, followed all the rules. I'm hearing all kinds of chatter about, yes, they're gonna accept open enrolled, no, they're gonna accept open enrolled. These people are out, these people are in, the school's gonna have lesser enrollment next year than they did this current year. From a parent's standpoint, this is completely unnerving. The school in question that I'm talking about could potentially end up with 80 to 100 less students next year than they have the current year. And the last word that I understand that they got, and please accept that this is chatter, to the best that I can understand. They could end up with less students next year and not accept any of the open enrolled students. When we're in the standpoint of not being able to open enroll in multiple schools, and we follow the guidelines provided by the school system, there's a good faith assumption that the school board and the central office would follow through with the parameters set up for open enrollment. My concern today is that's not happening. I understand you have administrative kids you have siblings of kids that are already there, you have, I don't know, there's 3 or 4 different things that qualify. But then you also look at truancy problems, discipline problems, so on and so forth, none of which govern these extra added open enrolled students in the school. My question, my statement to the board is, I believe that you have an obligation to those parents who followed through the process, the way the process was outlined by the school board. You have an obligation to those parents to live up to what you said. The school that I have my youngest open enrolled in could potentially have 100 fewer students than it had the year before. That doesn't take into consideration absenteeism, truancy, discipline problems, and so on and so forth, of which several of the parents that I've discussed who are open enrolled in that school have to deal with. But now they're being told that they will not be accepted into that school because essentially central office has changed the rules.
Okay, and let me
School board changed the rules.
He's changed the rules.
Okay.
School board changed the rules.
put a pause in here, and thank you for your comment. We'll have to go on because we've got a lot to do, and we'll arrive at a proper way of responding, and that's all we can do right now, but thank you for your comment.
We changed the rules, Brad, not central office. It's right up here, these 5 people.
And you can't
In
even
September.
respond to
Well,
what I asked?
Well, we have, our policy is to have comment and not necessarily to promise action at the time of the
I'm
comment.
not
So,
asking for action, I'm asking for response.
Yeah, we will
Let me
get you a
make a
response.
response
Yes,
real
ma'am.
quick.
Please do.
Let me say that the policy the board passed and approved
September.
in September, and the procedure that follows that is how we implement that policy will be followed when we finally make those decisions on to open enrollment. There is nothing in the policy or the procedure that will not be followed, okay, by the central office as we implement the board's policy and the procedure. So that's what I'll say. And what I'll also say is that as we have sent out by e-communications, we will have letters to parents or notifications to parents by May 1 as to whether or not their request has been approved or not, and the reasons for such. But it will be following the outline of the policy.
And the outline being, you start with the parents of the students, the siblings of the students, and then it goes based on population of the school.
Right.
So if the population of the school is lesser than it was the previous school,
We look at capacity of the building.
Okay, and I'm sorry, but we have another public comment person, and then we've got other business to do, so. thank
you
for
just
your-
really don't want to discuss it.
Well, this is not a discussion, this is public comment, and then we can respond to you in an appropriate way, and this is not.
What would that
All right, you're free to have a seat. Ms. Landry, you're our next speaker.
Well, I'm sorry, what would the appropriate way be, Ms. Putnam?
She'll respond.
Thank you so much.
Does she get 25 minutes?
Unfortunately.
She won't get any answers, but she'll get 30 minutes.
Well, we never get answers.
Yeah, I know.
And if we understand our policy, and which I'm trying to enforce at this board,
You did a poor
passed
job.
and agreed on, then
We want to
we'll,
change.
well, we will talk about it. So Ms. Landry has signed up to talk about items number 20,
Yeah,
Fund
yeah.
21,
And he
number
got,
24,
got a
golf.
copy.
Sorry, didn't mean 21.
He got a copy on the agenda.
Fund, you said Fund 21?
Not 21.
I'm sorry.
Item number 20.
Item number 20?
20, I signed up for about 3, I think.
Yes, you said
21
item
was
number
not one.
20, item 24, and item 26.
Right.
Okay, please.
Okay, I think item 20 is the establishment of Fund 21,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have any explanation on that. So
Okay.
when you get to that, would you please explain to us what Fund 21 is going to be for an activity fund?
Sure.
Item 24, approved boys and girls golf at Kaywood. I'd like to know, are fees the same at both places? And what are the fees and how are they paid?
Okay.
Item 26, approve change orders for Phase 2 of Lemons Mill Elementary.
Mhm.
And I noticed there's a $180,000 change, and I want to ask, are we going to have to pay the 10 or 15% change fee on that, all of that amount? Totals are much more than 180,000, but are we paying a penalty fee for a change on that?
Okay, we'll ask that question.
I think that's all I listed.
So let me make sure I got your question. So are the fees, I'm sorry, so Fund 21, you want an explanation what that's for?
Yeah, just what is it? I assume it's for something like the daycare money they collect that you put in a fund, and this is a special fund, but maybe I'm wrong.
And item 24, are the fees the same for the girls and boys golf?
No, is it the same at both golf courses?
Same
Yes,
at
I
both.
guess. Is it the same for men and women or
Both
boys and
golf
girls? Do we
Okay.
have any gender equity here?
All right. And item 26, the change order is our penalty fee that we're paying.
Are we paying the penalty fees
Excellent.
on all these, and what will it end up being? I think it's either 10 or 15%, so it's gonna be huge.
All right, we'll get those questions answered as we go through. Thank you very much. Our next item 10 is our personnel report.
The personnel report in front of you, several items through there, and I guess I just reiterate what I say because we just came off of going to the Eastern/UK teacher fair. It's very refreshing to represent Southampton School District because we get lots and lots of applicants who want to work for our district. And at the same point, I guess one of the best parts about it is we have student teachers who have had experiences in our district, who have been in our classrooms, who are fresh and eager to be working, and this is where they want to work. And so I just want to share with the board, this is a great place to work, and we see it throughout our number of applicants, and we see it throughout job fairs, and it's a fantastic place for teachers to begin their career, and they see it.
Thank you.
Our
Questions?
master's, no, just a comment, our master's program loves placing our student teachers in this, not our master's program, our undergraduate education program loves placing student teachers in our system too, by the way.
We've done some great partnerships under Dr. Thompson's guidance with Richmond College, and we're getting some fantastic people.
Any other questions for Dr. Kohlross?
Yes. Custodian resignations on April 1st. We lost that many people?
I think we were just catching up on cleaning up some sub-custodian things that, you know, when they don't work and when we call them and they don't work, it really is no
So it's
need
just
to keep
cleaning up
carrying them on the list,
payroll.
so it's just some catch up. and
Every
cleanup.
year, we have a non-renewal process, and without getting into the specific people, but we have a number of things that happen, and so as we get into this, we try to notify folks and say, hey, do you still want to be on our sub list? And so we sent that out to probably 20 people, and of those, X number responded, yes, I still want to be on this. Yes.
Other questions, board? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 11 is a field trip report.
You have in your packet, and Mr. Brent can explain, you have a field trip report in the packet that just talks about the different transportation items related to it.
Board, any questions about the field trip report? I was hoping we'd get someone to tell us about what they did on their field trip.
I appreciate getting that. I ask a question for clarification in the packet. I just want to make a suggestion that would help me for future things. I'm not criticizing, but the way that the request for common carriers came, there was some of them that in the language, it was very specific that it said, there is no bus available. And some of them, there wasn't that language in there. So when my question, some of my questions from the packet was, okay, those ones that don't say there's no bus available, is there a bus available? So if there's not a bus available, can somebody just put it in that last little statement that's in that, I guess it's a memo that comes from Randy. Randy, I don't know. Yeah, but if in that last statement on that memo, if there's not a bus available, can you just put it in there so that I don't have to ask, is there a bus available?
Yeah, and let me clarify too, because we changed the process and procedure, and we shared this with all principals. In years past, all of those requests went straight to the finance department. And what we're now saying is any field trip goes straight to the transportation department. So Roy looks at those first, and he's the one who can say, like if it's a request for common carrier, but we can provide a bus, then you all will never really see the request for common carrier, because then we say, no, we can get the bus, and it'll be there. So the ones
So
that
forget-
come to you
we'll
for
start right through
common
that.
carrier
Okay.
have already had his eyes on those, and he's already said, yes, we can, or no, we can't.
Well, and I understand that now, but what threw me was some of them said it and some of them didn't.
Sure.
So that's why I questioned it.
You always want to
What's the
take the school bus.
discrepancy? Why is there a discrepancy where some of them says that very specifically and some of the common carrier requests didn't?
I don't have an answer.
That was
We'll
all I
always
had.
take a school bus
Okay.
whenever we can.
Gotcha, okay.
Because it's the safest means of transport.
All right. All right, we ready to move on? Item 12, consent items for minutes, approval of minutes for special board meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 13, consent items for fees. So this is a fee for attending DECA competition. May I have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 14, consent items for common carriers. May I have a motion
Motion.
and a second?
Second?
Is there discussion?
Item F, did we get any explanation on that? Item F is transportation for gifted and talented students to and from Louisville. I have an issue there.
With the common carrier or what they wrote in it.
Not with the common.
Not with the common carrier.
Yeah,
So
with the
that's-
other issue,
Right.
right.
So, okay, so I guess my question is, I understand that this board does not approve the field trips,
Right.
okay? Can, based on what's in that request, can this board deny the common carrier?
Well, let me say this.
Or can we, I've got a serious problem with the application, so is it just I have to live with that, or what, how does that get addressed?
We did talk to the principal, in fact,
Okay.
Chip just stepped out, so he was
Okay.
the one doing my investigating for
Okay.
me. When he steps back in, he can probably tell you.
Okay.
But from what, some of the preliminary discussions, some of the kids just didn't want to be there.
Okay.
And some are on specific diets,
Okay.
okay, you know,
Okay.
with different allergies and so forth.
I
And
was
so
gonna say, the
they were
G3
trying
kids
to
can't
find,
eat there.
yeah, they were trying to find a way to accommodate the needs of kids who want to bring,
Okay.
not being forced to, but for various
Okay.
reasons.
And that's what I didn't get out of that.
Right.
What I saw it as was Jennifer, you worded it so much better than I did when I talked to you about it.
A sense of equity.
Yes, I didn't see that there was, I saw that we were creating an equity in students there, and that was my problem with it.
But I think your other question is, if there's something about a trip that we don't approve,
Right.
but we don't approve the trip,
Correct.
can we deny them the common carrier? And I'm not,
That
Bob,
would cancel the trip, so that would not be something we can do.
Well, yeah,
I
this
mean,
board
that
can
would-
say
that
no
would-
to the common carrier, can't we?
Yeah, but they get another bus, but that's basically saying you can't go on this trip because you have a problem with how it was applied for, not because their transportation.
I know, and that's why I'm kinda asking for clarification here.
I mean, we could, I
I don't
don't
know
think.
anything about the application, but the question simply is it unequivocally the authority of the board to grant or deny the request to use a common carrier, which it is. It's a thumbs up, thumbs down, period. What ramifications may flow from that?
And I don't wanna do that. I want these kids to be able to go. I want them to go. But I read that and it,
The way it was
It-
worded
way it
was
was-
not,
right,
was not equitable. It should have been worded in case of
Yeah.
the,
in lieu
In lieu-
of, or for children who don't want to do that,
well,
you know, we're given this
going to the
opportunity.
spaghetti factory, if you're G-free, you're not gonna
Yeah.
eat there,
Right.
period.
Right.
you know, so they needed to give them that option to stay away from that and to stay away from that possibility of an allergic reaction in that building. That's what I got from that.
That's all I was at. I mean, I don't wanna deny them that. I just wanted somebody to help me understand that we weren't creating inequity for students in that trip. So,
Okay.
okay, I'm fine with it.
Any other discussion, item 14?
I'll ask Chip later.
All right, all in favor of item 14, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 15, consent items for donation. Donation. May I have the motion, please, item 15,
Motion.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Please.
Mostly it is, dates I found listed on the donation acceptance form and some questions about some of these donation acceptance forms. Item G, stamping ground,
Hang on, it's gonna take me a second to scroll back there.
scroll up to
I'm
donations
going.
and click it and open.
I got it.
Item G,
Mhm.
stamping ground. And this is for the $775 donation amount, accelerated reader. The original date of the gift was September the 11th, and we are just now seeing this, and it's dated March the 11th. Was there a problem, or was maybe the date transposed somehow, that it's a year, almost a year off? I don't understand why it's
It
been
would
so
have been
long.
processed when we received it. I did not see that date.
You didn't see that date, okay. Okay, I've got more. Do I keep going?
Yeah, please.
Okay, go to R, the tuna letter. It states, it's dated March 21st. But then in the actual one of the letters, it says last month. There it is.
Which one's that?
R,
R,
the Kuna field trip.
Kuna, Scott County Gifted and Talented, March 21st, dear board, ask permission for the following. These donations were received last month. So if they were received last month, it should have been February on the dates, and it's March. It's, with our record keeping, I'm worried about the record keeping portions of this mostly. Do you see which one I'm saying?
I had some of the same concerns.
After your letter, Randy, on the, per the attached Rachel Johnson, the one that she actually did, if you will look at it, it's dated March 21st, but in the actual paragraph, the body of the letter, these donations were received last month. Record keeping, I'm worried about the record keeping with this.
The monies would have been received and receipted at the school.
That's my
regardless
whole
of
thing,
the
regardless
period.
of what was stated.
Yes. If the board chose not to accept the donation, it would be returned to the person that was donating the funds.
I think that's all I have.
Okay, all right, think about it.
Oh, wait, there is one, no, that's something else.
So in general, if somebody makes a donation, it's received, they get a receipt for it, and it just comes to us.
If it's a cash donation, somebody walks in,
They just take the
wants
cash.
to donate $100 or $200, we're not gonna turn it down.
Mhm.
Right.
They take it, but they don't expend it until the board approves it.
They don't spend it
If the
until the
board,
board
if the
approves it.
board were to deny that
Mhm.
donation, it would go back.
Okay, all right.
And again, I don't wanna do that, but, you know, like, why have they been sitting on the money if this is like from 2013? Maybe they just transposed something, I don't know. Maybe they pulled an old form and already had that date in there.
That was my concern.
But it just looked a little odd, some of these did, to me, for the same reasons that Jennifer had, was, no, we're not gonna turn down money, but.
Do you wanna see if there's a pattern there or something?
We will look into it.
Okay, thank you. Is that satisfactory, Jennifer?
As far as the 775 one, our
That's yours.
PTO, our PTO does that every year for us. And so that's, they know that that amount is always going to be donated
Mine
for
was the
that
concern
amount.
of the dates only.
Yeah.
Not the
And-
amount, just the concern with the dates, because that's
Do
a
they
month.
just
And the date was-
designate at that time and say,
I'm sorry?
do they just designate that this is the amount of money?
This is the amount of money that's given to the school that's going to be for accelerated reader.
Yeah,
And then,
then just didn't release it until, is that when they actually decided to do it back
well,
then?
they gave us the money at that time, but what we realized is that we had not done the donation request to the board, and so we were getting the donation request approved at this time for that one, because that was,
My only concern, again, was the record keeping.
Yeah.
That was a long span of time according to the dates on that.
yeah.
Okay.
The one with forgifted, I would imagine Rachel uses a template to type that up.
No, it's handwritten.
No, the one where she typed up the last month.
Oh, the one with the Kuna?
The CUNA, which is a ongoing thing,
Ongoing
and so you
event.
see the same people donating some different amounts of money, so I'll go check with her, but I imagine that's, she's not holding on to any money.
Comes
Okay.
in, it's used. Okay.
Are we ready to vote on item 15?
Yes.
I forgot what we're even voting on now.
Item 15.
Get used to it.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 16, consent items for fundraisers. Any questions? Let's have a motion.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor,
No.
discussion?
Yep.
Which one?
School activity fund for Garth Talent Show. I don't have my note, I didn't write it down, I'm sorry.
So they use a talent show.
That's not my issue. The issue is the beneficiary is listed as Kelly Moses,
It's
and
the-
not the students.
It's the music program.
Not her.
Not her, but
No, it's the music program in general, and because the proceeds go to benefit all students in the music program, it's a school-wide fundraiser.
it does not benefit that teacher.
No.
That was my
Yeah,
concern.
paid for every fundraiser. You can't have a fundraiser to benefit.
I know that, but that's what it says, so, yeah. Okay, I'm done with the typos.
Okay. All in favor of approving item 16, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 17, consent item for grants. I know this represents a lot of activity, and I'm very grateful for all the people who are behind these grants. Thank you en masse. May I have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Number D.
Number D,
Can we
approve
pull
the,
D out to vote on separately? I make a motion
Yes,
that we pull item D
absolutely.
out as for a separate vote.
You can
Move to
modify
amend
your
the
agenda,
Okay.
which you already approved, and
Okay.
then that would be the second motion. First
Okay.
one passes.
okay, so I'll entertain a motion to modify the agenda
Move.
to,
Second.
hang on, to show item 17D as a separate item.
Move it.
Second.
And second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we are back to item 17 without item D. Any discussion on those remaining items? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're now considering item 17D separately. Let's have a motion and then second and discussion.
Second.
And second, so it's open for discussion. This is approve the Bluegrass Pipeline Grant for the benefit of Scott County Middle School.
Well, my concern is that this is such a contentious issue that it could, as desperately as we need the money, that it could be perceived as basically giving validation to their wanting to put the pipeline through Scott County. And trust me, it is an extremely contentious, as of to date, from my information I received, they have not secured near the property they thought they would within Scott County. And I just think that at this time, this would not be beneficial to this board to vote for this or support it.
Is Scott County eligible to apply? I mean, the flyer says that it's a fund to benefit local communities within the counties traversed by the pipeline project. We're not traversed by the pipeline project.
We are in their
It's coming to
maps
Scott
to
County.
be, but
Right, but it's not
now.
there yet.
But they're purchasing property in Scott County.
They haven't
will
purchased
traverse
it.
these counties.
But they haven't purchased a bit of land in Scott County yet, because there's been nothing turned over. There's 2 in Franklin, there's 1 in Woodford County, there's several in Barron County, but as far as Scott County goes, the maps are showing blank. They are showing some requests all over the place, but not the actual line of the pipeline. They are showing both like side, so we don't even know which way the pipeline's actually gonna go.
Would we know from asking the county clerk who's present?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that discussion. Forgive me,
Bluegrass Pipeline, have there been any purchases?
Applications
Property
must be
applications.
for projects within counties that
Do you
host the
know?
Bluegrass pipeline.
I'm sorry, I cannot answer to that. I'm not aware.
But according to several websites that I did research on, and there's several of them out there, about 15 to stop it and 2 or 3 to send it through. They were all very consistent in that the pipeline itself, because there is no guaranteed easement purchases yet, they don't really know which direction it's gonna go. So it could very well move away from Scott County, and that would make us ineligible for this grant to begin with.
Unless we
But I
take
don't
it
want to-
now.
No, we are not part of that at this point, because that's exactly what it says, to help achieve this objective. Establish a fund to benefit local communities within the counties traversed by the pipeline project. We are currently not traversed by this pipeline project. I
The grant
vote,
guidelines say applications must be for projects within the counties that host the
Right.
Bluegrass pipeline.
and we
And-
don't host it.
And so somebody from our school made the application.
Or is requesting
Is
to apply.
requesting, they have not.
Requesting
They
to
are
apply.
requesting
Right,
for
to apply
permission
for the
to
grant.
apply.
I vote that it not.
Well, let's get the perspective of staff. What do you think, Tish?
Well, I started to say Jennifer's here, and this is coming from Scott Miller. Do you
Yeah.
wanna say anything?
Well, this was brought to me by my SEC, Mary Jo Johnson, and she brought it to me and asked me, and again, because of the controversy, I'm like, I don't know. And actually, she was looking at it because, and I'm not sure, she came back from some conference and it was talked about, and that's where she got her information, and asked about it because she wanted to look at it being used towards technology because all our computers are dying basically, you know. And, she was going to talk to Sheila to see if it was something that we should look at trying to get or not, and I assume she talked to you. And again, just like you said, it was looking at, is it something that we could or could not apply for if it became that? And I think that's what she was asked, that's what she's looking at to see, could it be or could it not be? And if it's not, and it's too much, then okay. But like anything that's out there that's available to help us, then we wanna look at it, and if it's not, then okay. So that's pretty much how we were looking at it, and she was looking at it in a technology standpoint from the information she had been given. Sheila, I mean, do you have anything additional that she shared with you from?
You've said it all, for the most part, is she looking for ways to get money to fund the technology and
Right, and let me,
it's a grant, so I never.
so let me see if I can articulate what I'm understanding from Haley and Jennifer, and I think from Joanna also. There's concern that if we do apply for this grant from the pipeline company, that it could be perceived as some kind of approval for the project. And there's enough current dissent about the value or safety of that project that it's not clear that that would be something the board would want to be identified with.
Well, it's not clear that we are even going to host the pipeline at this point,
All right,
so
so
the
that-
application should not even be considered.
All right, so that was the second part. So, because I heard from Haley first that it was because the association would be a problem. And your point is, it may not even apply to us if in fact the pipeline doesn't traverse the county.
Exactly.
I say that
both.
If the pipeline goes through, then bring this back to us.
No, it doesn't have to be submitted even until October.
Yeah, if the pipeline goes through and we hit this guideline that says applications must be for projects within counties that host the Bluegrass Pipeline, we don't host it. If we become a host of the Bluegrass Pipeline and we are traversed by the pipeline project, then just bring it back, would be my recommendation.
Okay.
And just to
Yes,
Just every
Just to
quarter.
clarify
they're-
my position,
Yeah.
is the state legislator voted not to grant them
Eminent domain.
eminent domain, which allowed them, based on need and necessity, to go out and take the land. So now it has to be a project that one person, I guess, conceivably could stop if they don't want to sell their farm to the pipeline and have it run through it. As it is now, the pipeline comes in, at the Grant County line goes, traverses basically the edge of Scott County, on the Owen County, Franklin County, to Woodford County, comes out over basically on Leestown Road. So I personally think at this time, it's not something that we need to consider. I don't want to table it, we can table it down the road, but that's fine. I don't
It
want
could
to.
be resubmitted if, like Joanna said, we become a host later.
Mhm.
I would say we would want to resubmit it at that
Um,
point.
We could do a number of things. We could vote to not give approval for it to be submitted at this time, or let's say if we table it and it doesn't come back up in the next meeting, then it dies.
Right.
So both of those would do the same thing. So what would you,
I'd say we kill it now and let it come back later.
okay, but Joanna was saying, kill it now and wait for it to come back.
That's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
suggestion is we just
Resubmit it.
vote against it now,
Mhm.
but since Jennifer's sitting there, just say, if it happens,
I'm
just
a
bring it
little,
back.
So
I'm
we've
a
got a
little
motion on the
confused,
floor.
yeah.
Yes, and the motion is to approve.
Move us to approve, and we have
Right.
to
We have to
table.
take a vote on that.
We have to take a vote on that.
Yeah.
I mean, but we could table the motion, couldn't we?
No, you've already made the
You're also-
motion.
you
We
got a
withdraw
motion
the
on the
motion.
All right.
floor, you gotta go through that, or.
Okay, I stand corrected. Are you all ready to vote?
Yes.
All right, all in favor of item D, say aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Motion fails 0-5.
Thank you.
Okay? Item 18, consent items for surplus. May I have a motion
Move.
and a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 19, consent items for agreements. Motion, please,
Motion.
and second.
Second. No, I can't second.
You can't do it. Haley, your turn.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Discussion, please.
I don't believe your name is Patrician. So
You
it's
call
a
it this,
government
that's not
contract, so I think we need to get that fixed, Patrician, before they expect you to answer to that name.
Other discussion, item
No, sorry.
19. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 20, approve the establishment of Fund 21 District Activity Funds. Let's have a motion and second, and we'll go to discussion.
Move.
Okay, discussion. May we have a brief description of item 21?
That's where item 20, which is Fund 21.
Fund 21, I'm sorry, my bad.
The board was provided with supplemental information relating to the need for the approval of Fund 21. Fund 21 would be called a District Activity Fund. The need for this District Activity Fund was created by the new state regulations that were approved effective July 1/13. Along with those regulations came a redefinition or refinement of the definition of costs related to operation of a facility or schools. Operational costs under the new guidelines cannot be paid from activity funds at the school level. The old definition of operational costs used to be facility renovations, maintenance, utilities, phone bills, those type of things. You couldn't pay for those out of an activity fund. New Red Book follows a new definition and basically says that if it's an instructional expenditure, it's an operational cost, and therefore cannot be paid from activity funds maintained at the school level. To address the issues that this has created, Kentucky Department of Education established a new fund that we were allowed to establish within our general ledger at the central office. What we'll be doing is, as board approves fees for instructional supplies, or there's a book fair to buy library books, the process will follow the same procedure that we followed in the past. It'll come to board and be approved. Monies will be collected at the school level. We will, and they'll be deposited as they have in the past, receipts written, deposited. We will transfer those funds to the board account and in essence move the money into the board's Fund 21. And it'll be expended from Fund 21.
Back to the schools?
Back to the schools. The schools will, it'll operate the same, except
Right.
the folks, instead of writing a purchase order at the school level, they'll write a district purchase order, requisition, submit it to the board. All the processing, purchasing will take place from the board. It will delay, folks will have to plan better, they'll have to plan because it'll take a little longer than walking into the bookkeeper in the school and say, I need, a requisition or purchase order today. The monies will be accounted for in a very similar way as it is in the school activity funds at the school level. This is something that all districts are facing. Some are a little further ahead than others, but we couldn't implement this until we had the count code structure that KD rolled out and was established as what's called Fund 21, district activity funds. Each school will be segregated by their location number. They'll be tracked by location number. There'll be sub-accounts within those locations. So they'll be able to, the school bookkeeper has access to that information in our Munis accounting system. So the information's there, and we're not taking their money. I mean, it's still be accounted for. If it's not expended in one year, it'll carry over to the subsequent year. So we're just asking the board to formally approve the establishment of Fund 21, district activity funds, and designate that the fund balances at the end of the year will be a committed funds. That's according to GASB 54, Governmental Accounting Standard Board, is that those funds need to be committed and reported in the annual financial report in that manner. Questions?
Board? Ms. Landry, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, not what I thought was.
Okay. All right. All in favor of approving item 20, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 21 is approved release with State Farm Insurance. May I have the motion, please?
Moved.
And the second? Is there discussion?
When will this be done, because it's so ugly?
We'll proceed as soon as the release is
As soon as we get
approved
the
and
check.
the funds are in hand.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 22, approved surety bond for the bond treasurer. Board treasurer. And a second?
Second.
Discussion. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 23, approve renewal of employee fidelity bond. May I have the motion, please?
So moved.
And the second?
Second.
Is there discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 24.
Mr. Chairman, before you vote on that, if proper, I would invite consideration for increasing that amount the next time we go through that process.
The fidelity bond?
Can you give an explanation?
$600,000 is like $5 in your pocket today compared to
let financial and insurance people say that, but I would prefer that it go up to at least $1 million, if not 2.
Okay. All right.
And I understand probably that's not what the state says is recommended. I will have to say what I think about what the state recommends.
So this covers, this is for in case somebody inside the school embezzles some money, and this would pay it back if that was so found.
That would be the hope of having that insurance policy, if you will, in essence, for lost funds.
Okay.
There's not a, for the surety bond we just done, there was a table with the recommendations from KD for that, there's not for this one. And we're going up $100,000, we went up $100,000.
No, it's the same as last
12.
year. A couple years
12,
ago,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was 5.
22 for the treasurer versus that fidelity bond going across basically anybody that's involved with funds.
Okay, thank you.
I'm dealing with a matter right now where 600,000 wouldn't get it done.
All right, appreciate that input. Thank you, Bob.
Randy, will you go through this process the next time we?
We'll be bidding and actually putting them out for bid by next year. This is the last year that it can be renewed.
Okay.
Thanks. Item 24, approve Boys and Girls Golf at Canewood and Cherry Blossom. May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And discussion. We had a question earlier about the relative costs between Canewood and Cherry Blossom. Anybody have information related?
Well, I
Could that be
don't
done?
have the numbers right with me, I'll let them on my desk, and I do apologize, but let me kind of clarify from Ms. Landry. It is both boys and girls, okay? There's not a separation based on gender whatsoever. The games are played at Canewood, and therefore the cost was a little more extensive for Canewood versus Cherry Blossom. Cherry Blossom, we use that course just for the driving range. Cherry Blossom and Canewood have the same owner, okay? We do this every year. It's for our golf teams, our boys and girls golf teams. And obviously, it's much cheaper to pay them a fee as to us trying, we can't possibly build a golf course. So we rely on them, and actually, they give us a pretty decent rate, and I apologize, I can get that for you, I just didn't bring those numbers down with me.
Was that the nature of your question, just the relative
Yeah,
difference
the costs,
between?
are they the same? Why don't we consider Longview?
Why don't we consider what? I'm saying?
Longview,
It's,
Is that a club
so
only?
far out, would be
Yeah,
part of it.
well, let me just go back in and say, Canewood has been very accommodating to us, and they are in closer proximity than to drive to Longview. Cherry Blossom, of course, then does have the driving range that we do use, and being the same owner, we work with them directly as.
Georgetown College is
Mhm.
using it.
But we don't know the cost, you don't.
We can get that, we'll
We
get that
saw this
information.
last year, didn't we just add Cherry Blossom for the driving range last
Yeah.
year?
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be
Adding-
Lexington.
Yeah,
Used to go
yeah, we
Lexington
did.
for that.
Yeah, because I remember last year was the first year we approved the driving range at Cherry Blossom. The
And
cost
Ms.
of driving
Landry,
range at Cherry
just
Blossom.
a little tidbit, not that it's pertinent, but I think it's important, is for many, many years, the golf team paid their own way. I mean, they did their own fundraisers, I mean, they paid for their own fees and everything. It's just been, since Ms. Putty's been here, that the board actually stepped in and started supporting that venture, and we have had a lot of really good kids. Matter of fact, the #1 player in Kentucky this year is on our golf team, and with that said, it's been a very positive thing for us, and it freed them up because they were struggling to be able to make ends meet every year, pay for the green fees, and go to the outings and stuff. So the board, since Ms. Putty's been here, and that's been, 4 or 5 years ago, we started picking up the tab on it. It's one of the few things the board here can do.
It's kind of like
And
renting
it's
football
also
field to college.
providing, a lot of our kids couldn't make the trip to Lexington, and so if they were traveling, and that was an undue hardship on them. Having the availability of the golf courses right here in our own community obviously has opened up
sort of saying, thank you, I'm having a hard time today, can you tell, participation, and so that doesn't become a barrier.
I'll call you tomorrow because.
Okay, let me ask, is this, like we furnish the football field and pay for the football field, we furnish the baseball field, pay for the rental of the baseball field?
The pool,
So this is
girls
okay.
softball, softball,
The
the track,
track.
the tennis track.
But the difference is, we don't have those facilities, so we have to rent them.
Right.
But the flip side of it is, this board, 7, 8, 10 years ago, used to pay 100% of the travel expenses. We no longer pay anything, or just a very,
We just pay for this.
we pay for this, we don't pay for transportation costs anymore.
No.
That goes back to those athletic teams.
And I guess we
To the
don't have room
parents.
for a golf course
Of
over at
the
ECS.
athletes, thank you.
I wish we did.
Maybe
I'll let somebody else make a proposal.
Call your LPC.
All right, all in favor of approving item 24, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 25 is to approve the fiscal year 15 trade agreement for Scott County Farm.
So moved.
And second, please.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I do have one quick question. Mr. Lacy has actually done this for, wow, 10 years I've been on the board. I'm just curious, if you would just explain in the language under the KRS 45A.380 and the written determination by the superintendent. What is the written determination?
I'm gonna let Mike, because he's the one who handles this.
Yeah, I don't have a copy, I think you got it in. Basically, the written determination is what the model procurement code allows the chief financial officer of the district or board to write when there needs to be a written explanation, if you will, of why you're doing what you're doing. And so in essence, the written determination, to use 45A.380, is the fact that, and as I said, I don't have it, but it's,
You can click on the pay and handling it over.
the fact is that it requires things that cannot be bid.
Right.
That's basically what there's about 6 or 8 points on that determination that are written to do that, to tell you what they are.
Well, let me ask you a question, Mike. Is it possible, because I'm always looking where we spend our money and alternatives, to maybe offer the Taylor Farm? I mean, there's still a wide variety of land there not being used, and it looks like a golf course. I mean, it looks very pretty. We spend a lot of money mowing it. They mow it every 2 weeks. Is it possible to offer to John just to mow it for hay, so we don't have to incur that cost to, I mean, because honestly, we're mowing that out there every 2 or 3 weeks during the summer, spring, and fall.
Are you asking now about the Taylor Farm or
I'm
about
asking,
the other
would
farm?
John be offered the hay off of it just to save money? Because I know there's a cost associated with the diesel and labor that we spend.
You can address that
Yes.
by contract,
Yeah.
I mean, it may not be feasible, I just know
but not
We
as a
spend money.
contract.
I know it is, that you could write specs for. And you would have to put it, I'm assuming, Bob, am I correct?
Bid it out.
It would have to be advertised and bid.
Or you would have to, again, have a determination, as you're saying, Mike,
Right.
that the determination is simply the General Assembly says if you're not gonna use competitive bidding, you got to state, statewide, you're not using competitive bidding. And the statute 380 has that true laundry list of the potential reasons why you're not using competitive bidding.
No.
It either fits or it doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you go competitive bidding. If it fits, then you can go to competitive bidding.
Well, I know the county owns the other remainder of the farm, and they're using Spanky Ammerman. He's contracted, he takes hay over 2 or 3 times a year, so they don't have to incur the cost to mow. You know, as it is right now, we're probably not gonna be doing anything over here for 3 or 4 years at least. And there is a cost associated with what we pay for labor and for equipment and maintenance. And I promise you, it's mowed every 2 or 3 weeks, especially last year.
There's a dollar value, obviously, that can be determined and assigned to that, and that in part would drive the contractual relationship.
Are you asking?
with anyone.
So are you asking Mike to look into the possibility?
I'm asking the superintendent to think about it.
Okay.
I will say this, we had 3 or 4 years ago, the FFA.
They meant took hay off the soda, which is a moneymaker. But they only did it once.
But the problem, they didn't make that much money, and most of it was left on the ground because the cost of the diesel fuel and stuff, they didn't even bale it. They only baled out front of the, out in, on the Elkhorn Crossing side of the drive. Everything else was just left after they decided not to do it.
Well, how much
So then
of
we
the
having
100
to-
acres is left undeveloped right now?
Undeveloped?
Undeveloped.
I don't know,
Back out what we've deeded to the county, back
Yeah.
out Elkhorn Crossing, back out the Taylor property and the drive. Is there
Usable
70 acres?
And usable stuff, I was gonna say about 60, 65. Cause everything over towards the county, over towards the creek and stuff is not usable, swamp, get over that.
I know Spanky
Springs
came over
and-
and mowed some of ours last year, and I
Yeah,
wouldn't
he
say anything
did.
to him.
Yeah, he did. We were getting ready to get hold of him that he couldn't bale it, but the weather took care of that. He couldn't bale it anyway, so.
We'll talk about it later, I don't want to talk
Okay.
more time.
But as far as this contract, that's the written determination, is basically we can't bid it. There's no way to write an advertisement.
Okay, item 25, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I have a request for a short break before we approach the next item with change orders. Just to get them right on the edge and then put a comma in.
Trying to freeze us, aren't you? It's like a
Yes.
timeout before freezing.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, freeze them out. So we'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Oh, me.
Are you not powered up to take them?
She don't like, she's gone.
You put the filter
No, there she goes.
Did you notice that Brad got a listed in the farm comments? I mean, he got people. Yeah. Did you realize that before tonight? I didn't because there was no name listed with him.
No, I didn't realize. Her bad was for him, but he's gonna list.
Well, it's but, you know, Rick tried to get a
Right,
item
right.
listed on the agenda and he couldn't.
Well, Rick, Ken wasn't listed either.
His name wasn't, but annexation was and open enrollment was listed on here.
Oh, so you think he requested those in line?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
because they were listed
didn't make
under,
that connection.
under public comment. It said annexation. He wanted to talk about,
I didn't make that connection.
he did. I tried to get you some extra minutes.
I didn't want anything here. As long as I can get in for this too. but-
5, 10, 15, 20, 23, 24, 25. 25 minutes, Rick. 25 minutes.
What?
Penn got.
Yeah.
It all has to be sent to you, but it's not cars.
I asked to be on the agenda, wasn't placed there.
Yeah.
They admitted I should have been, don't get me through.
Well, see, I didn't make that connection until just tonight because his name was not on the agenda for
So they
just,
they accommodated it that way. So-
yeah. With annexation and open enrollment.
So I guess it depends on who you are.
You gotta run for city council or something.
They should be ashamed, but they're not.
Right.
Bottom line, they should be ashamed.
But to just let him go on and on and on and on and on.
Well, they should cut me off a minute, alarm me
A
off.
minute, yeah. And I kept track of when it started, and then I added a minute every time he.
I don't begrudge him the time, everybody.
No, I don't either, but everybody else should be given the same consideration.
But you'll recall, I asked to be on the agenda so I could have more time.
I don't know how.
They then discussed that and agreed that I should have been put on there, but still didn't allow me to discuss.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the process was with him, whether he called and asked or.
That's the impression I was given, that she said something to the effect that Greg called me.
They just put the subject.
But you see, he called after the deadline to be put on the agenda. So that's how they accommodated him.
Well, you see, we've got Rebecca here too. How are they gonna work her into the agenda?
Well, how fair is that to everybody who may have watched the agenda? And they, if they had known she was going to be speaking, they may have wanted to speak, but she wasn't on the agenda.
Right. Not a word.
They should be ashamed of how they, their profession, lack of profession.
And they have a chief workers.
Rick?
That's called manipulation.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
But it's also gender equal.
Well, I was getting a little hot under the collar when they just kept letting him go and go and go and go.
It's frustrating. And my item was about student safety.
Yeah.
Get the one to hear that, what he's saying. Yeah, it's unbelievable. People say they should be ashamed of how they conduct their business, but they're not. I've been to some other things, it's not like that.
How are you? Good. It's different.
Well, they get away with it because not enough down there. That's how they gauge it. We're willing to let them do it. Disrespectful. Yeah, condescending, it's arrogant.
Right here to make sure everything goes okay. Yep. That is his name. I have not met him. But I suspect he'll do a good job of trying to fill those shoes.
What do you think, Caleb? My best work yet? You know what? It is every possible potential in the world.
has gone up tremendously.
This
I
is
paid
it.
$5 for that.
That's it right there.
Costco.
We'll give
I'll
you,
give you $5.
You know, you can get just.
The
you
board
hear-
probably cost $5.
Did you hear in China where they sold a bottle of air for $860? Clean air, not Chinese air, it was French air.
Because it's cold pollution.
I'm gonna run it off.
If somebody laughed at one, I would be one.
That's what, I don't know.
No, I found them.
It was just a small can though.
Called them up, I checked, got that post office, I guess, but no. Okay. It stinks. Yes, sir. No, I can see your thing. It's on John's for Andy May. I don't think they're really free. I don't think
This is a new wrinkle. This is a new wrinkle. For her under superintendent's report.
she's still working on
Can we eat that mushroom?
Well, I would do that, but it won't be that. Right after this is my last
That's what I was looking for.
So how are you?
They come up with something.
How are you, Rebecca? Doing good. Hey, had a busy evening.
Yes, see, I've come from the soccer field. I have an 8th grader who had that special night.
Yeah.
Escort parents out.
Yeah, I've told somebody else about that. They said, yeah, we do that all the time.
I sure wish we had that beautiful weather from the weekend.
Oh my.
I said, I love to watch my son play soccer, but I'm just as happy in the meeting tonight and not sitting on that cold bleacher in 37-degree weather.
We used to do
They played anyways. I think it's just above freezing out there.
Okay, I thought it was just
Special 8th grade night because the 8th graders will be graduating. So a special night for parents to be escorted out with their players. So we did that, and I took in about 10 minutes of the game, but it was very cold out there.
The wind is blowing.
Yes. It was a glorious weekend. I'm glad I got out and went to the kite festival.
We got out, we were cleaning bridges.
We are back in session.
Well,
the pipes underneath our bridge, when it rains a lot, the creek gets up and every branch that comes down
next
gets
item
caught in
is
it.
26, to approve change orders for the Lemons Mill Phase 2 reorientation of athletic fields. Please.
Can everybody see this? Everybody see this okay? All right, so what we're talking about tonight